Hey, everybody, welcome to Bad Science Sunday. We have a holiday coming up, so you know what that means video. Oh, and of course, now it must be weird. Oh, not that one. What just happened? All right, fine, we'll go. Sorry, I got kicked out for a second there. I love that little girl. She's amazing. But yeah, this week coming up, we're celebrating, I guess, our separation from the UK.
The
We're,
saving us from aliens. That's what we're celebrating. Wait, is it
a bunch of Americans throwing
my
a temper
connection might be
tantrum
bad?
and throwing tea into the sea. I don't know, whatever. I get a day off, and I don't get enough of those, so I'm really excited about that. Go team!
Yeah,
All right, so
go team.
today I am very honored to have as a guest host Dr. Dan from Creation Myths. Hey, wait.
Oh,
Oh, I
you
There
think
we
were
go.
you're
muted.
I was
okay. There
no,
you
There
go.
we go.
I was
Is it
muted,
me?
so I wasn't making noise during the song. I forgot to unmute myself because I am a professional.
A lot of professionalism this weekend. I am hoping,
We're off to a great,
fingers
we're
crossed, that
we're
I'll
off to a
become
great
a
start here.
professional.
Great.
But
Hi, everybody.
I'm assuming there's no one who hasn't heard of you. But if you'd like to do your elevator pitch at the beginning, so that because we have people at the beginning of the streams that aren't necessarily at the end of the streams, when we have everybody kind of talk more about themselves. But for the people at the beginning of the stream, would you like to let them know who you are, what you
Yeah.
do?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Dan. I'm an evolutionary biologist. Right now I'm a full-time teacher. I teach college biology and evolutionary biology, and it's super fun. And on YouTube, I have my channel called Creation Myths. And basically, I spend way too much time watching and reading and thinking about creationism and talking about specific creationist claims, scientific sounding creationist claims, things like genetic entropy and irreducible complexity, things that sound really complex and scientific, but they're actually just nonsense. And I talk about why they're nonsense in a way that I hope is accessible for people who don't have a background in evolutionary biology. So that's what I do on my channel, Creation Myths. It's all about taking very specific creationist claims and kind of breaking them down, showing why they're wrong, so that anybody who deals with creationism in any form can kind of use it as a reference to have in their back pocket the answers to these creationist arguments.
Awesome. And wait, did you say where everybody can find you?
Yeah, the channel is called Creation Myths, just Creation Myths. And if you stumble upon a channel where all of the thumbnails are in black and white, you've found the right place, because that is my brand and it stands out on all the different it's there.
It does. It
I
does.
do that on purpose. That is a brand.
So yeah, definitely check out Dr. Dan
Stern Cardinal.
Stern Cardinal. Yeah,
Cardinal.
it's confusing. It's you should hear my students try to get it right. I've heard
Goodness.
every permutation that's wrong. Yeah,
Beautiful.
I have a similar problem, but with spelling. People pronounce Van de Graaff correctly, but they spell it incorrectly all the time.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever spelled it correctly. So
it's a high maintenance name.
Just saying. So, okay, we do have a video today, and we're going to be stopping as frequently as possible because it really pissed me off. I even brought in Dapper Dinosaur. I'm like, have you ever seen this before? Oh, really quick. Amber, hello, hello. Thank you for the raid. We appreciate you. And thanks for bringing our friends by. We got Dr. Dan on today from Creation Myths. We're really excited.
And also, before we keep going, can I just say thank you for having me here? I try to catch this show every week. I love just kind of hanging out on a Sunday night. It's a nice way to chill out before the week starts. So I really flattered and appreciate being here. Thank you.
No, I'm seriously honored. Vandy actually said, "Hey, what about Dr. Dan?" I'm like, "Do you think he'd do it?"
Y'all do it.
No, seriously, we're honored. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
But this video, yeah, it really pissed me off because I always look in videos to see if they are copyrighted or if they're, doing anything crazy like AIG. And these people they're doing something crazy just like AIG. and I don't care. We're going to do a fair use critique because they are peddling science misinformation to children. And I'm not going to be scared away from taking on that endeavor, even if it causes me a channel strike. I can spare it at this point in time, and long enough to fight it. I just, but I saw that I was just so incensed. And it says specifically, we believe that children should. Oh God, you know what? I don't want to find it because
Where was it? Was it on their channel page? Because it's not
yeah, it
in
was
the video description.
not in the video description. It's on. Okay, IVM gives permission for its videos to be played, downloaded, and shared by other Christian churches, organizations, religious affiliates for the purposes of instruction and education. We believe Christian education should always be free. However, all impersonations will be reported to YouTube and subject to further legal dispute. And I'm like, I feel like that's a threat. Like we're gonna sue you or get your channel struck if you don't bow to our form of childhood indoctrination and science misinformation. And there were actually some other videos that I was considering that were going to be a little bit longer, and I was like, no, fuck that. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, and this kind of thing, this is what fair use is for.
Yeah,
Right?
literally.
It's totally legit.
Quintessential.
Yep.
Yeah. We're doing fair use in multiple ways. Like if we were only responding to the science and stuff, it would be fair use. If we were only making fun of them and not really giving our own ideas, it would still be fair use.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Oh, whoops.
wrong one.
I know. I'm all kinds of.
Oh wait, no, that's me. That's me. I have it in the wrong one.
Oh, and then Dr. Dan's not here. Oh God, we've been bitten by the professional streamer bug.
Oh, terrible. I can still hear him.
Yeah,
Now I'm
he's
back.
here.
There we
Right.
go.
He's
That
just
was
not
super weird.
here. So I need to
Yeah.
get him. No, I gotcha. I'm gonna insert him.
Oh, that's the problem.
Voila.
That's so
I
weird.
don't know what Vandy's problem is though.
No. I recognize the problem. He was only disappeared when he was small.
Oh,
And
okay.
I thought that was weird.
That's very weird.
Anyway, so we are covering a channel, Impact Video Ministries, and Impact Video Ministries. I want you to take a close look at this subscriber count here. They have 666,000 subscribers. Okay,
Yeah.
I mean,
Getting close to a million.
clearly. Well, yeah, but yeah, that and they're the Antichrist, Maya.
They are the Antichrist. They are the Antichrist, and you will all agree with us as we get further into this video.
We will ban you if you don't. We won't. We might. Anyway, and this video, which makes more sense, creation or evolution? Maya, can we start a poll for the chat?
Oh, yeah, I love polls.
What makes more sense, folks?
And it's from
man.
8 years ago, and they got this 67,000 years. So views years. I'm confused. So
Wait, what
yeah.
am I asking?
All professionals.
We're asking which makes more sense: creation, evolution, or tapioca weaselology. Yeah.
I don't know what that third thing is, but I think that's the answer.
There we see. Dan knows what's up. But yeah, we're gonna enjoy. Also, I feel like they really state their priorities clearly on the first few words. Science, technology, politics. Just bam, 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 very fast. Do you guys want to talk about politics? No, we're not going. We were a minute and a half late because
immediately.
Immediately. From agreeing. They were agreeing.
We were agreeing just viciously.
Just nerding out.
Yeah, on politics. He said the debate. And I was like, Argh!
No, we were just talking blood pressure.
But no, you know what? Why not on my own stream? I've been every chat I've been in. I've been like, no, you're wrong. And just raging on the keyboard. And it's just like, you're supposed to be getting ready for your own goddamn stream. Get off the computer. Every chat. But, all right. I'm into my own stream now. We're going to talk about these assholes who think that
religi
is the thing.
That makes more sense. Man, I gotta say, this is a very, very fast intro.
Yeah.
See, we're even commenting on the video choices. Fair use.
Do you have it set to normal speed, or are you doing
I
it at?
think I do. Yeah, I
Yeah,
do.
that is
Wow,
fast.
that is fast.
Yeah, right?
No,
I
because
mean,
usually you're right. Because usually he has it at 1.25 on.
why are you like this right now? I'm trying to maximize the thing, and then it's like yelling at me because there's this new. It doesn't matter. Religion, is God real? Wow, I
It's very
didn't
fast.
internalize this. This is just a lot. I mean, if they slowed it down a little bit, it like it's not bad, but it's
I mean, and it's geared towards kids, and you would think that it would like you'll listen to it and you'll think it's for like 5-year-olds, and I'm like, they can't read
it,
this fast. That's okay.
yeah.
Hi guys, my name's Johnny Lucas, and we're going to be
Okay, I'm gonna say that I feel like to me this looks a little bit blurry compared to the production quality I was expecting, and the white sheet in the background. Also, I
Oh
mean,
my gosh. See, I listened to this for my phone mostly, and I didn't see the unpressed white bed sheet. What the
yeah,
hell?
Yeah, it's a weird choice.
yeah, and he just sort of like blends into it, but yeah,
It's a choice.
It's a
yep.
choice.
looking at a special video segment today called What Makes More Sense. We take a look at two opposing topics and evaluate them to see which one makes more sense. Simple, right? So
Can topics be opposing?
They
Can a
can
topic
be.
oppose another topic?
Well, the substance behind the topic,
An
sure.
opinion can.
Right. That's kind of what I mean.
You're giving him far too much credit, Maya. I thought that
No, that's your
was my
job.
job. Yeah.
today we're going to be looking at the Bible's account of creation versus Darwin's evolutionary theory. In the first
Time out.
chapter of the book of
Time out. One sentence. It just
That one sentence,
Okay.
yes.
Here's the thing, folks. If you didn't know this, Darwin published Origin of Species, the book, outlined natural selection, common descent, all that stuff, 1859. You may not be surprised to know that evolution has grown up a little bit since then. We've added a whole lot of stuff to it.
Has it evolved?
You might say that evolutionary theory has evolved since over 100 years ago. Shocking, right? That, evolutionary theory now in 2024 is quite different from what it was in 1980, 1940, when you had this thing called the modern synthesis, 1900, which was before we kind of had the modern field of genetics was even really a thing, and, obviously the 1860s. So this is a trick that creationist organizations use. It's all Darwinism and Darwinists. And no, that's stupid. No one,
Wait, but I thought Darwin was our holy pope of atheism.
Yeah.
That's the point. It's a deliberate kind of tactic, right? It's a deliberate thing to make people think that it's rather than a robust scientific theory, that it's tied to this one specific person, and that way you can undermine it easier by saying things like, "Well, Darwin was a racist," which is true. He was a terrible racist. Darwin converted on his deathbed,
1859.
which is
Yeah.
not true. He didn't convert on his deathbed, but you can say these things. Or my favorite one that I know of was Darwin. This is literally true. I've heard creationists say this. Well, Darwin kicked puppies. So you can't. I've heard creationists make that argument, and it's the idea by calling it Darwinism, you kind of shift your target to the person Darwin away from the ideas. It's a deliberate tactic, and I get mad every time they do it.
It's literally an ad hominem. That is properly an ad hominem fallacy, because they're using he kicked puppies. It doesn't matter if it's true. Therefore, he's wrong. That is literally an ad hominem fallacy. I'm pretty sure, and that gets misused a lot. So
It does. But also, where did the deathbed thing come from? Is there any?
I don't know. I don't know the
Okay.
origins of that one, but yeah, it's not true as far as we know.
But yeah, and also, a lot of people think that they're trying to. What I hear a lot is, they think that religion is low, and they're trying to bring science down to its level. It's like, no, they're trying. I mean, yes and no. It's not intentional. Like, they're trying to bring science down. They're trying to show that science and religion are the same thing. Science is a religion. Like that. That's what they're doing. So if I have a God and I've come to this on my own volition of my own opinions, I just feel this is real. That is too what you were doing. So I don't have to listen to you because we're both doing the same thing.
Yep.
Like that's what they're doing.
Yep.
Chapter the book of Genesis, it tells us that God created all the living creatures on the face of the earth and in the sea and in the air, each according to its own kind. It also tells us that God created the very first man and woman to...
I wanna go back to this delightful little picture.
Of all the kinds.
Well,
We have
yeah,
the fish kind and the dog kind and the cat kind and the dinosaur kind, which was, it existed at the same time as the human kind.
this shark is 2,000 miles long.
And above water.
It's jumping, and it's thrilled to do it, even though it can't see where it's going. So, yeah. And also, this thing can't breathe. There's no atmosphere up there.
Fair. Hey, I keep asking Dapper this, and Dapper's watched a crap ton of evangelical talks. He has not been able to give me a coherent definition of a kind. Dr. Dan, can you?
Nope. Creationists can't either. So, as far as we can tell, kinds are the kind of archetypes created and then modern things evolved, if you will, from those kinds. The problem is you have to fit representatives of each kind on the ark. So you can only have at most a couple thousand kinds. But then you have to get off the ark like 4,500 years ago, and then you have to get hyper evolution. If anyone's familiar with Dr. Joel Duff, he's talked about this a lot, this hyper evolution that young earth creationists are basically leaning on to explain this. So you get off the ark, and now there's one like cat kind. And then not only do they have to speciate from that like 2 individuals or 7, whatever it is, it's either 2 or 7 for each kind. And then you have to get all of the living examples, right? Lions and tigers and jaguars and and all the different cats, and there's like several dozen of them. There's also several hundred extinct cat species that we know of that also had to speciate and then go extinct in between getting off the ark and now.
Yeah.
How is that supposed to work, guys?
Well, yeah, because I know Erica talks a lot about the heat problem. I really find the speciation problem to be a problem.
It's a problem. Yeah. And you can connect it to something called biogeography, because biogeography is the study of basically the distribution of species and how they got that way. It's
why Madagascar is weird.
And why Madagascar is weird. My favorite biogeography fact is New Zealand never got mammals. Right? So like on New Zealand, you have fossils of giant birds that filled all the ecological niches that everywhere else in the world, it's mammals. But New Zealand never had mammals natively. There were no mammals until Europeans brought them there. They only had but they had giant birds filling all those ecological niches, which is super cool and weird. And like, so biogeography is about how you get that way. And when you think about the ark, and you think about, okay, everything gets off the ark, wherever that is in the world, right? It's one defined place, and then everything kind of radiates outwards. How do you get just the lions to go to Africa, and then the tigers go over here, and why do all the marsupials only go to Australia and nowhere else in the world, right? Like, how do these patterns happen, not just in the time frame, but in the spatial pattern also has to happen in that very tightly defined time period. And it's not 4,500 years, because we're not talking about getting all of these different species between the ark and now. We have to get them between the ark and Middle Kingdom Egypt, which is like
people saw where they were,
and they have records like we have, like from Egypt, we have like all these different kinds of domesticated waterfowl. So like, okay, all those different things speciated from a single kind in the span of like 1,000 years. It's completely bananas, and there's no like hard and fast definition of a kind. It's just whatever we think can't evolve, wherever that line is, but it's totally arbitrary.
Oh, Dr. Bundy says hi. And Caden is offering a definition. Caden Slinker is Mormon, and I'm not really sure how Mormons fall on.
I know for a fact that Caden is not a young earth creationist, though. Caden believes in evolution.
Very smart, Caden.
Yeah.
Here's my definition of kind: any group of organisms that includes the last common ancestor and all of its descendants. That said, evolution explains biodiversity pretty well.
That
Yeah,
sounds like a clade to me.
that's a great definition for kind. That's essentially what a kind is. It's the
Yeah.
point where common ancestry works in a young Earth framework. The problem is, any way you could possibly use to determine that, there is no boundary line where it just magically stops working at some arbitrary point. Right? Whatever you
Right.
can do to show that all of the cats are related to each other, you can also show that the cats and the dogs and the bears are all related to each other using the same techniques.
Yeah,
There's no way
exactly.
to, yeah.
each according to its own kind. It also tells us that God created the very first
Also, bat signal. I wonder what's going down.
man and woman to walk this earth
It's the bat
to its
signal.
own kind.
That
It also
means-
tells us that
Real quick, Regios has gifted us 10 new cult members. Doorknob Head, I'm sorry. Mark Reed, Jefferson Spatchcock, Mahalia Laga, Karen Butcher, Tilting Windmill, and Convenient Estelle. Wait a minute. Ryan Donovan, Kalasia, and the Trusty Ape. Oh, wait, and Craig Carey. Oh, this is so random. Anyways, I'm sorry. Because it keeps,
It's
but thank
interspersed.
you. Yeah. Thank you, Regios, and welcome new cult members. Please enjoy your tapioca weasels, your nitties, and vaginas.
God created the very first man.
Really quick, I find this is funny. So you had me do a poll asking the chat what if they like evolution or creationism. I did tapiocaism, creationism.
Tapioca creationism. How'd it go?
Yeah, and you're 49%, which is.
Come on, cultists. Come on, cultists.
It's gonna come down to Wisconsin. Sorry.
Oh.
I like
Man
Dr.
and woman
Dan
to
so
walk.
much.
Off this earth. They were able to walk and talk and plan from the very beginning, and the first commandment that God gave them was to be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. So that's essentially.
Does anybody else? Okay, I find that weird. Subdue it. It just seems like a weird
predators.
command. Yeah, I guess.
I mean, I guess it's like, okay, you have dominion to like kick all of the other animals out of their natural habitats and do with the land as you will. It gives me like strong, like do whatever makes you feel good vibes, but like
It's ecological hedonism.
yes, that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
The phrase that comes to mind for me is manifest destiny, but like Garden of Eden edition.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Essentially how mankind and all the creatures on the earth got their start according to the Bible. So now let's look at the evolutionary theory. It stems from the 18th.
Whoa! I mean, I kind of feel like we just went through.
According to the Bible.
Is that what the Bible says? I mean, well, yeah, I know what the Bible says. I mean, he totally missed the part where God like spoke and things appeared out of nothing.
Again.
It also tells us that God created the very first man and woman to walk this earth. They were able to walk and talk and plan from the very
He's laughing. He's like, they weren't able to walk.
beginning. And the first commandment that God gave them.
Also,
God
why is this guy
created.
angry?
And that's what I hate about creationists. I'm like, how do you teach this? Like, what's the recipe?
I mean, the thing is, so I actually had a student this past year who was like, I learned creationism and like a student who doesn't know about my YouTube stuff, just like in my class, completely unrelated, would come up to me after class and be like, I never learned any of this stuff because I went to this school and wherever I was from, like wherever, and like learned. And I will tell you that it is exactly the same level that you find on YouTube. Like this, like there isn't like some super secret, like better version that is used in education. Like
that was the thing growing up. That like when I was in 5th grade, I was a creationist. It wasn't a thing that my church ever like really taught much. I probably like. Now I'm not just not a creationist, now I'm an atheist, but that's neither here nor there. The thing that made me sort of realize, like, this doesn't make any sense was I reached ages where, like, I started learning other facts that all made perfect sense. They all came together super well. And I would look and it was just, Nothing. There was no more sophisticated version that actually addressed any of the arguments.
Mhm.
So I was like, that it sounds like a myth.
Yeah, it's
It sounds like
God
people made it up.
created.
Last thing before we get to what they're going to say about evolution.
Okay.
What is happening on
Which,
the page?
spoiler, I watched this video. It's not very good when they get to the evolution. But last thing here, they're just saying, and that's what the Bible said. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. That's your interpretation of what the Bible said. But like most Christians don't agree with you. Like this represents not a majority view of Christians. Most Christians also accept the conventional scientifically determined age of the Earth of approximately 4.5 billion years. Most Christians accept that evolution is the process that led to the biodiversity we have now, right? Like
Right.
what this person is representing as like, and this is what the Bible says, is a minority view among Christians.
Yes.
And that's an important point. They're trying to like make it seem like this is the only way, and it's just not.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
who
and-
thinks that you're related to a banana?
I am related to a banana.
Yeah, but he didn't really. It's just God created. I mean, there's two ways that God creates in the Bible, and one is that God speaks things into existence from nothing, and the other one is a golem spell. And none of those are mentioned at all. Like,
Yeah, although they don't there's a lot of things they don't mention, but they sort of allude to it. I mean, we've got the snake with arms and legs trying to hook up with Eve, and a random angry sky face and a happy sky. It's very unclear what is being depicted in this image. I have no idea.
Was to be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. So that's essentially how mankind and all the creatures on the earth got their start according to the Bible.
Moving on.
So now let's look at the evolutionary theory. It stems from the 1859 book titled The Origin of Species.
What part? Like, he's done teaching creationism at this point, and we are 1 minute into the video, and that includes the intro.
That was all evolution and how bad it is.
Yeah, that's you know, and that's creationism. We're done. It's a 12-minute video.
If you subscribe to the view of the false dichotomy that you either have evolution, atheist horrible evolution, where we all came from a bowl of soup that got hit by lightning, or obviously God created all the stuff and the Garden of Eden and everything, and there was a flood, because those are the only two possibilities, then they would be right. But everything I just said is silly. I'm very good at that.
No, I am still like trying to figure out like how you teach creationism.
You don't. You teach anti-evolution. Like if I get like it's not creationism isn't the idea you're teaching. You're saying this is what the Bible says, and then like this video does, the rest of it is just anti-evolutionism. Like all the stuff that I talk about on my channel, it's not affirmative arguments for creation. It's anti-evolution arguments, right? Like this idea of irreducible complexity is not a pro anything argument. It's an evolution can't do this argument.
Yep.
Right? That's what it is. And it's exactly like Tapioca
said.
So
teaching creationism is just tearing down evolution.
Yes.
Therefore God.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Evolutionary theory. It stems from the 1859 book titled The Origin of Species by author Charles Darwin, who was...
I will say this. I will give them one microscopic amount of credit, especially since it's even on the page.
They didn't do the whole...
They didn't do the whole or the preservation of favored races in the struggle for life, because people... They don't understand what the word race meant. He was talking about races of cabbage.
Right.
So they didn't do that. Microscopic amount of credit for not putting their foot in it even more.
He was also a naturalist and a biologist. It holds the premise that every single living organism on the planet are all related and that we've all descended from one single and very simple common ancestor. It proposes that over time...
So, while what he said is, I think, true, I'm not sure that is the premise of evolution.
Yeah, right. That's like Darwin goes to great lengths to make that the conclusion. I mean, the book, for anyone, most people have not read Origin of Species. I'm not going
I
to
haven't.
begrudge anyone for not reading Origin of Species. It's from 1859, and it sounds like it was written, it was published in 1850. It was actually, a lot of it was written actually before that.
In my own
But
defense, it wasn't required reading, so it didn't get picked up.
I only read it as in graduate school because we did a graduate seminar where each week we did a chapter and took a modern paper and matched it up with. It was really fun.
That's cool.
Because I'm a giant nerd, I thought it was really fun.
That's so cool.
But the book is structured as an argument, right? The whole like natural selection, therefore universal common descent is the conclusion of the argument. It's not the starting point. He builds the argument over the course of the book and does a really nice job of it. It's crystal clear. It's designed to be understood by someone who doesn't have a background in naturalism. It's like, and naturalism being like the precursor field to biology, right?
And all the other sciences.
Yeah, it's a really good read. And I think anybody who's studying biology should read it. I think anybody who's not studying biology, like, don't unless you're having trouble falling asleep at night.
Time, more complex genetic mutations occur to benefit the survival of a given organism, and those organisms without genetic advantages will die off. This is known as natural selection.
Would you like to add nuance to that?
It's not, it doesn't, a lot of people, like, so what is being described here is what's called hard selection. Either you live or you die. And if you die, your genes don't, get passed on to the next generation. That's not generally how natural selection works. It's much more, it's not an on-off signal, either you're good or you're dead. It's a gradient of basically what is your relative contribution genetically to the next generation, right? That concept is called fitness, evolutionary fitness. Your genetic contribution to the next generation relative to everybody else in the population, right? The traits that confer a fitness advantage increase in frequency over time, right? And it doesn't mean if you have a low fitness trait, it doesn't mean you don't have kids. It just means you have fewer kids on average compared to the individuals with the high fitness traits. It doesn't mean you're dead immediately, though for some traits, they'll kill you pretty much immediately. But mostly it means like you get 50% fewer resources, so you have fewer kids. So your alleles, your genetic makeup shrinks in terms of its frequency generation over generation, whereas other individuals who are better at getting resources, better at mating, whatever, better at evading predators, their genetic contribution is going to increase over time. It's not a just either you're dead or you have a bunch of kids.
Yes. Oh, stupid thing. Sorry. It's YouTube is doing this new thing where if I just click in this bar, it brings up the chapters.
Oh, that's annoying.
It's super annoying.
Nice.
But yeah.
And this is how you would...
That being said, he could have done worse. He could have just said, it's the argument that a dog could give birth to a rhinoceros.
Yeah, he could have done the Kent Hovind
the Hovind thing.
Yeah.
I would have screamed, just like it would have been inadvertent, but it would have been loud.
Yeah, I mean this level of stupidity, it was like maybe 5-10 millihovens.
I will say too, again, to the credit of whoever wrote this script, they did get the idea that there's a genetic component under this, that there's genetic variation that happens. And then whichever variants are, better or worse in your environment, that dictates your evolutionary success or contributes to, because there's other, non-selective processes going on too. But like, you know what? First pass, they could have done worse for describing natural selection. Let's credit where it is due.
Also, I just want to say that based on what you said earlier, they have excellent taste in sort of style for their videos, right?
Just
yeah,
that black and white stuff.
Slowly get diverging.
Wait, real quick. I was thinking earlier about I did see a Ray Comfort video, and it was it's on the top of my head. It was so fun. I didn't send it to you, but it was just Ray Comfort, and he said it's the question that stumps scientists, and it was just him asking about like, well, how do we speciate? And so they're talking about
how many ways do you want?
Like, no, it was a bunch of, he went to a bunch of scientists. It was like 6 or 7. And they were like, well, we see this doing this and this doing this. And he was like, but but we're not seeing like, but that's still the same kind. And they're like, well, yeah. And then he'll go to the other one. It's like,
Kinds
well,
of
you
people.
know, and they'll be like, da 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 da. He's like, but yeah, but that's still the same kind. And I'm like, fucking dumbass. Like, nobody is saying that a banana can turn into a chair. And that's what he's like looking for to prove of it. Like, and that was the end of the video. Like him just saying they're all wrong. Animals don't change kinds.
I mean,
No one but you said he did, dumbass.
but here's the thing. I think there are examples that you could give where you can look at organism A going through an evolutionary event and clearly becoming, by any whatever standard, you got to lock the creationists down and say this is a kind, these two things are different kinds, right? You can go through and then say, okay, I can document this thing evolving into this kind, evolving into that kind, right? There's a number of examples of that I think you could actually provide. There's my favorite ones are things becoming photosynthetic, because everyone agrees that like algae and plants are different from like amoeba and animals, right? But we can directly document this amoeboid thing called a rhizarian. It's not an amoeba, but it's kind of like an amoeba. And there's one species of it that is a brand new type of green algae. And like, we can just show that this evolution is happening in real time. It's an amoeba-like thing becoming a type of green algae that didn't exist before. Like, those two things, by any reasonable standard, are a different kind. We can find animals that are doing that. We've got about 24 different types of animals that are at various stages of becoming photosynthetic. Like, they're green.
Cool.
And there's one species where the eggs are green. They actually pass the little organelles that do the photosynthesis vertically from parent to offspring. At least one of them has photosynthesis genes in its own animal cell genome. Like, they're doing this process of endosymbiosis. Like, that is a new kind. Like, by however you define kind, creationist, whatever definition you want to use, like, that is a new kind. We've got lizards with placentas giving live birth. That is a new kind, folks. That is a different thing. Like, we can directly document these things happening. So, like, I think, you know what, Raycom? Ask me. I'll give you an answer. I'll give you 10 answers.
Yeah, but all of those things have like mostly the same like number of like chromosomes and stuff as like the earlier version or something.
Yeah, but then you do chromosome number, it gets really weird.
I know. Question.
Because then like horses and donkeys are different kinds, and that doesn't make any sense.
I agree with you. Also, but what's your take on like the marbled crayfish?
Which one? What's the marbled crayfish?
The marbled crayfish was it seems to have been a mutation from some other version of it, and now they're parthenogenic. So and that happened in a single generation.
That's weird.
In the pet trade. So
that's weird.
It's super weird, and I think that is even potentially an example of a new kind. Potentially in one generation.
Yeah, I mean are they obligately parthenogenic, or can they do
that like it? I think they know exactly which thing it came from, and they have an odd number of chromosomes,
so they can't back cross to the
they can't. Like the math doesn't work out.
I don't know that example, but yeah, I mean, and the one that I really like that actually comes from Mr. Anderson. I don't know if you all know Mr. Anderson, who's been doing all the debate stuff.
He's coming on the show at some point.
He's awesome. Everyone should check out Mr. Anderson's channel, but he's got this example where he talks about the transmissible cancers, where it's actually the tumor cells that jump from organism to organism. So you've got like this line of what's essentially a parasitic amorphous cells. It's not like a parasite like a tapeworm or like a virus. It's this thing in dogs called canine transmissible venereal tumor. And it predates the divergence of, it predates the domestication of dogs. So it's in wolves, it's in domesticated dogs, and it's a tumor that they transmit when they mate. And it's a temporary tumor. It's non-fatal, but it's basically this parasite that jumps from individual to individual when they mate. And it's derived from dogs, but it's a transmissible cancer. It's its own thing. Like, it's clearly not a dog. Is it a member of the dog kind? I don't know, but it's weird and super cool.
And I think you guys are
in various species.
Sorry.
No worries. I just want to. I think, can we at least all get on the same page that Ray Comfort's a dumbass?
Yes. This is the guy who thinks humans were created because our hands were made perfectly for bananas, or bananas were made perfectly for our
Oh, Ray
hands.
Comfort is the guy that said that?
He's the banana guy, because it has the ridges in the banana fit in the folds of your fingers when you hold a banana. He's the guy that's like, look, they were created for each other, not realizing that he's accidentally right because bananas are domesticated. They don't exist outside of humans.
Yeah.
Dude,
Of our
he has
variety.
no redeeming qualities. God.
He's laughable.
Look, Aussie, please just take him back, please.
He's over time. He offered up this illustration known as the tree of life. So now that we briefly defined the creation account and the evolutionary process, let's evaluate them and see which one makes more sense. All right? So what we're going to do is use some scientific principles.
I doubt that.
No, we're not. Nope.
Seems unlikely.
Yeah.
And we're going to pose the same questions for each subject. All right, question number 1. What are the core contrasting differences between the biblical creation account for life on Earth and Darwin's evolutionary theory for life on Earth? The Bible claims that all life on this planet was created at one moment in time by an all-powerful, intelligent God.
Okay, I'm sorry. This was meant for what age? Because you're right. There's a lot of words on the screen here.
Yeah. Yeah, it strikes me as older than that.
Yeah.
Planet was created at one moment in time by an all-powerful, intelligent God. Whereas evolution claims that the life forms on this planet are the result of a series of successive genetic mutations that planet
wait, let's let him finish that sentence.
Okay, fine.
The result of a series of successive genetic mutations that resulted into the life forms that we see today. What evolution?
He didn't say the same thing that was on the screen, though.
I think he
did not use the word random.
It's not just mutation. So there are a lot of processes of evolution. It's not just mutation. It's not just natural selection. Darwin talked about natural selection and variation. Didn't know anything about mutations because genetics, like as a field, didn't exist. We didn't know what DNA was, how it worked. We didn't know any of that stuff. We now know, in addition to selection, which kind of picks the winners and losers, and mutation, which generates the variation, you also have other mechanisms, like genetic drift, which is random changes in frequency of things, which is different from selection, which is non-random, right? I don't like the word random for mutations because random makes people think of like a coin flip or like rolling a die where every outcome is equally likely. That's not true. Some types of mutations are more likely than others. It's not, it's probabilistic or it's stochastic. It's not, every outcome is equally likely though. It just reducing evolution to just selection and mutation is a common thing that not just creationists get wrong, to be fair. A lot of people get this wrong, but that's not what it is. There's other stuff.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think he's not Australian. He's New Zealand, right?
Oh, okay.
Please forgive me.
Yeah. Them's fighting words, Maya.
I know. They don't like it when I do that. I apologize. But real quick before we go back, I do want to say thank you to Annoying Sparkling Wasp newsletters for being a cultist for another 3 months. Welcome. Also Ember, who's joining us, who's joining the Weasel Cult for 5 months. We love a good Ember. Thank you, everybody. Please enjoy your tapioca weasels, your nitties, and vaginas. I'm going to be able to talk one day.
Will you?
Shut up.
Genetic mutations that resulted into the life forms that we see today. What evolution fails to yield in contrast to the creation account is the origin of life. If we are
Yeah, evolution is about how you get biodiversity. Its origin of life is a separate thing. There are evolutionary processes involved, but it's a whole different thing. It's a whole different field.
Yeah, but chemistry is fake because it doesn't explain where the elements came from.
Now I'm going to
indeed descendants from
well, chemistry is a science, and science tries to disprove God, which is demonic. And so we can't believe in it.
Facts.
single-celled organisms, how did these organisms come into being? It's a question that must be addressed if you're going to hold on to the evolutionary theory as a belief. In
Sure. Sure, but that's not what evolution is. Like, generally, most people who accept evolution also accept a naturalistic explanation for the earliest cellular life. But they are two different ideas, to be clear.
Yeah.
Like, and if they want to make a thing out of it, fine, but, like, they're two different things.
It is true. It is definitely true that it does lead inexorably to the question, where did life come from? But that is not an evolutionary question. That is an abiogenesis question.
It's a different thing.
How we arrived at the diversity of life is the evolutionary question.
1952, a Jewish American chemist named Stanley Miller conducted what was called the Origin of Life experiment.
Can I just point out that it's weird that he pointed out that he's a Jewish American chemist?
I thought that too.
That's a weird thing to point out.
Why do we care?
That actually, so I wonder, that might be
Racist.
It might be him. No, well, it might be that. It totally might be that. I'm not disagreeing with that.
Okay, just so would not say that.
You don't have to say that.
It also could be that he's trying to hitch this is all like Christian and Judeo-Christian ideas.
Oh, now who's being like super like?
See,
no, you're right.
Yeah, comedy. You do know that they think Jews are like evil, demonic, of the devil, all of the things, and they are trying to do like this New World Order thing where they pull the wool over Christians' eyes and send it, to get everybody to
definitely
hell. But
definitely sets off like the Jewish conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
spidey sense. Yeah.
And I'm not explaining it well, but we've gone over this so many other weeks. Thank you for not letting that. I mean, because I've been reading the chat and then also like I don't know, passively paying attention to the video. So thank you, because I did want to stop there and call that out, because I'm calling out bullshit there. I am pretty sure that was anti-Semitic.
I agree with you.
Crap.
I want to be clear that I agree.
But I do, on a lighter note, palate cleanser, left-handed Jedi, is a cultist, 5 months. Thank you. And he's also dedicated 10 more cultists to the tapioca weasel cult. I cannot talk today. Sophia, Ron Klotzer, Tikas, Alex Raven, Stephen Walsh, Jay Pasick, Jay Patchix. Jeff told me how to say his name correct once, and I don't know, Jay Patchix, whatever. Dog, Tanika J, Fierce, Zarabi. Thank you for having pronounceable names. Love you all. Enjoy your tapioca weasels, your nitties and vaginas.
Thought to see if microscopic life forms could be produced by recreating Earth's early atmosphere using a series of gases that were thought to have been the atmosphere's composition at that time. The gases included hydrogen, methane, ammonia, and water vapor. These substances...
Sorry, I just don't want them to cancel us.
...were put within a sterile glass container.
He's talking about the Abiogenesis experiment now?
Yeah, the famous Miller-Urey experiment, which is from over 70 years ago, and similar to Darwin, wouldn't you know it, we've done more of this research since then. So it's kind of weird that they keep citing the one from 70 years ago instead of all the more recent work.
Yeah, and also, its goal was not to create life.
Right.
Its goal was to find out what would happen in these conditions.
Yeah, and we've done it under lots of conditions, and they, we'll let them talk, but there's a fun thing about this experiment that our ability to detect the chemicals they made back then was a lot less in terms of the instruments being lower sensitivity. When you go back to the original samples,
because they saved it.
Turns out we did a lot better than we thought.
Yeah, and they saved the original samples, which was
very cool,
a very smart, foresighted move.
And the contents were sparked with electrical discharges to simulate lightning. After 5 days, Miller discovered that a few simple amino acids had collected at the bottom of the glass. The experiment was seen as a success at the time, but it was later discredited because further scientific analysis over the years led the scientific community to believe that the Earth's early atmosphere was actually made up of carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and water.
Okay, we stop right there. When so this is a different experiment, or
So we've done this experiment a bunch of times. So the original
okay.
experiment had what's called a reducing atmosphere. The thinking being, so reduction is when you add electrons to a thing, and you need reduction to build bigger molecules, right? Because electrons make chemical bonds. So you need to add electrons to make, build bigger things. So it makes sense that you would think that would be the conditions. There have been work since then that says like, hey, it's likely the atmosphere didn't have these specific components to it, so we got to do these experiments under what we now more currently understand to be realistic conditions. Or you move the processes to different parts of the environment, right? So now
Wait, hold on.
actually,
Are you saying that the entire early Earth was not a completely homogeneous environment?
that is what I'm saying.
For shame.
I know, right? What? Yeah. So, like, this is how science works. Like, I love when creationists cite this as like, "Oh, we got them." When, and this is like not the only example of this that creationists do, but they do this thing where they go, "We thought this," and then it turned out it's actually that, and it's like, yes, that's how science works, folks. Congratulations.
And
That is the point.
they forget to
Why is
mention
science-
who found it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was it other scientists, Maya?
In the same field.
I'm shocked. Shocked, not that shocked.
Yeah, it's like we know like we can based on things like geology, which by the way, I love it how creationists will be like, see, this geology paper shows that the atmosphere, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, that geology paper also shows that the world is 4 billion years old, right? And they're like, yeah, but I don't believe that part. It's like, well, kind of cherry picking here, aren't we? But we have these more modern experiments used under different atmospheric conditions and different ambient conditions with different combinations of gases and metals and heat versus electricity and like all these different things. And what you find in these experiments is actually pretty consistent. You find a bunch of amino acids. Turns out it's really easy to make amino acids if you have the big 4 elements: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. Surprisingly easy to make amino acids. You can make simple sugars. You can get hydrocarbons. Those are the things that it's pretty easy to make under these conditions, right? Basically small organic compounds, pretty straightforward. And depending on the other stuff that you have there, like if you add phosphorus, you can get phosphate groups. And hey, phosphate groups are important because that's chemical energy currency, basically. So what we now think, and kind of what I think about this, is that rather than an atmospheric kind of surface of the ocean situation, a much more likely candidate for where life originated was down at deep sea hydrothermal vents, because you have not just the right mix of gases, you have the temperature putting a lot of energy into the system,
and an energy gradient.
And that's exactly, I keep pointing because
it's so hard.
I know. And you get the gradients not just with the temperature, but with electrons, because you end up with a metal compound. So you get like iron or nickel that's able to provide the electrons into the system. So you get redox, that's oxidation and reduction reactions where things are trading electrons back and forth. And all of biochemistry is based on redox reactions. So once you start redox reactions, you've basically transitioned from an environmental energy source to a chemical energy source. That's like the key step to overcome in terms of like biochemical metabolism, right? You have to have these oxidation reduction reactions. And those, we've shown that those can happen spontaneously in these deep sea environments. We'll see if they mention these new experiments. They're relatively new. We're talking like last 20, 25 years. We'll see if they mention them. I don't remember if they do, honestly, but I don't think so. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, and real quick, I think this is a real question. Curian says, so a byproduct of life was the atmosphere's birth or evolution?
That's true, because the atmosphere initially had no oxygen, because oxygen actually inhibits these chemical reactions that build bigger molecules, because oxygen is really good at stealing electrons from things. And when you're talking biochemically, if you're stealing electrons, you're breaking chemical bonds. So you're taking big things and breaking them into smaller things. Actually, in like our cells, in our metabolism, the very last step is the reason we need oxygen is you have electrons that are powering everything. And then you have to do something with those electrons so they don't just hang out in your cells and cause trouble. And the thing that we do is give them to oxygen, because oxygen does a better job taking electrons than almost anything else in our cells. So it's really, it's a safe kind of depository box. So we say, okay, we're done with this electron, oxygen can take it now. And that's the end of the process. And then that results in water, and we release the water as a waste product. And so if you have that initially, that inhibits all of these reactions that are going to build up to more complex molecules. But then what happened a couple billion years later is photosynthesis, right? Like we talk about trees taking in CO2 and releasing oxygen. That happened later, and that led to the oxygenation of the atmosphere. So the current atmosphere as it exists is the result of cells at the time doing this new form of making energy that resulted in oxygen as a byproduct.
And how did that work out for them?
It killed everything except the things that could do it, basically. Everything. So the typical word you hear for this is the oxygen revolution. It was about 2.5 billion years ago. But my colleague called it the oxygen apocalypse, and that's what I've started calling it. Because this is, can I nerd out for like a minute? Because this is like such a cool thing.
We love that.
So oxygen, I want everyone to change how you think about oxygen, right? We need oxygen to breathe. And the reason we need oxygen to breathe is what I described is, oh, now you made me all big. And I'm like, oh, all right.
Nerd out.
So we need oxygen to breathe because we need it for this last step in our metabolism. When our cells take in big molecules, we break them down. We have to do something with the electrons. And the thing we do is we give them to oxygen and then release that as water. This is beneficial because things that do this get more energy out of your food. It's a more efficient way of extracting energy from chemicals than the what we do. It's called aerobic respiration when you use oxygen. Aerobic is the word that means you use oxygen to do it. So the pre-aerobic respiration ways of getting energy from your food are less efficient. You just get less bang for your buck. But that's not like why it was beneficial and why most things in the world do that today. The reason it was beneficial is because it's a way of taking a toxic gas, oxygen, and converting it into harmless H2O, water. That's the benefit initially to being able to do aerobic respiration, because you've got these jerks over here, cyanobacteria, that started doing this thing called photosynthesis, oxygenic photosynthesis, that are polluting the atmosphere with this toxic gas. So now, if you can't deal with the toxic gas, you're super dead. So the things that could do this aerobic respiration had a method of dealing with the toxic gas by converting it into water, which obviously isn't going to kill you. The side effect of that turned out to be beneficial was when you do that, you actually get more energy out of your food as well, which allows you to be more complex. So you get larger, more complex cells, and shortly thereafter, multicellularity. But this first step was having to deal with the toxic gas in the atmosphere, oxygen. And I just want everyone to think about oxygen differently. Oxygen is, first and foremost, a toxic gas that actually breaks down molecules and inhibits a lot of otherwise possible biochemistry. And kind of the magic of most things that live on Earth is that we have this way of dealing with it that keeps it from being toxic by converting it to water.
Beautiful. The cyanobacteria that were creating the oxygen as a byproduct, they were also harmed by a increase in the amount of, like, they could deal with the little bit they were producing, but when everything upped, was that also harmful for most of them?
So that's a great question. I think they could also do, because cyanobacteria can do. I'm trying to think of how that's a good question. I mean, now they're aerobic. I would think there's at least some species of cyanobacteria that were aerobic rather than anaerobic. There's a whole bunch of different forms of photosynthesis, and like the one that everything does now, plants and green algae and stuff, is called oxygenic photosynthesis. But there's a bunch of different kinds, and like Karen's question here is spot on, because one of the other types, the bacteria that do it, is called purple it's a hard phrase to say, purple sulfur bacteria. It's an non-oxygenic form of photosynthesis. So they use light energy to do their thing, but they don't generate oxygen as a byproduct. It's an earlier form of photosynthesis that didn't lead to the oxygen apocalypse. So there was, and it would have been a very common form of metabolism. Now it's kind of limited to fairly, restricted environments on Earth. But pre-cyanobacteria, it would have been fairly common, I would think.
And this is kind of what Brie was talking about a few weeks ago. Yeah, the beginning of the month we had her on, right? About the oxygen apocalypse and plants being probably being purple, not green, and
Purple first, yeah, then
yeah.
switching. And it's just the colors are just different pigments, wavelengths of light that they use to do their thing. And to some extent, that's like happenstance. Like there's
Right.
red algae that do oxygenic photosynthesis that use red pigments instead of green pigments. Like it's kind of, it's one of those kind of quirks of life. Thank you, everybody, for indulging this long aside here. One of my points to this is like, this stuff is cool, and creationists just like don't want to hear any of it. Like, we know how this stuff works. We know the history, and it's freaking cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. This was exactly what I was hoping to result when I said, how did that work out for them?
You see, you asked a simple question, and I could have just...
It's one of the biggest dramas in the history of the planet.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. See, we could have just stopped at, it killed everything that couldn't deal with the oxygen, right? But there's such a cool story behind that about why life is the way it is. Because if that apocalyptic event didn't happen, like eukaryotic cells, larger, more complex cells couldn't happen because the energetic demands are higher. And just like by happenstance, the way to deal with oxygen also gets you more energy. It's just one of those cool things. Like, and if you're just saying, oh, God created each individual kind, then you just erase all of that history, all of that complexity, and all of that drama. And it sounds weird because, like, I teach science, but like there is a plot, there's drama, there's narrative tension, and I always try to like build that into my classes, right?
You get more of that as a biologist than I do as a physicist.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's suspense of a kind of like, but what about that electron? We still haven't dealt with those extra electrons.
Yeah.
Where does oxygen come into this? We haven't done, so it's like suspense, but
it definitely comes in also, as it does in all fields, into the history of the field and people trying to solve these puzzles. Like right now we're trying to deal with the Hubble tension. That's a big question that we're working on, It's great.
Yeah, I agree. Science tangents are the best tangents.
Thank you for indulging me.
Which is what volcanic gases were producing. The experiment was performed again using these substances, and no amino acids were produced.
We've done it under a lot of conditions, and you get amino acids in a lot of them. So also, I don't know about that.
Yeah. Also, weren't you saying that, I mean, we no longer think it was necessarily on the surface, right?
Yeah, you're talking.
The atmosphere was. So this isn't. I don't see sulfur or phosphorus or anything here. That would be. But like you said, I guess you don't need those for the simple.
Yeah, but like using a lot of it, it's like it's not just the sulfur. It's the sulfur compound. So it's like nickel sulfur stuff or iron sulfur. Like one of the main hypotheses is called the iron sulfur hypothesis, and it has to do with these. Yeah.
That'd be a great band name.
Fine tuning is rearing its ugly head like any minute now.
I mean, maybe they'll try to do that, but like biochemistry is so messy. Once you look into biochemistry and it's all just messy and it's all like this reaction happens at 80%, this one happens 30%, but it happens, it's a lot of like the forward quote unquote reaction happens at a certain rate, and then the reverse reaction happens at 95%. Like it's all messy and whatever.
Did they find amino acids on meteors?
Sure did. Yep, that probe that landed on a comet was like, hey, there's amino acids up here. Yeah.
Cool.
And let me tell you, they spent a lot of time and money to make sure it wasn't just detecting stuff it brought up there with it.
Yep.
They thought about that.
But more importantly, neither experiment was able to produce life.
Oh, real
and
quick.
sure.
Real quick, I'm sorry. Caden has a good question here. With silicon-based eukaryotes need oxygen?
Ooh, I don't even know if that's possible. I mean,
Yeah.
because so silicon is the atom. I think it's one row below carbon, right?
One row below,
One,
yeah.
So it has the same electron
Exactly.
configuration, and the point is it can make complex molecules like carbon.
Yeah. It just can't do it as well, is the simple answer.
Yeah, and because it's got extra shell, so the electronegativity is different. It doesn't play as nicely.
Yeah, it doesn't end up, and the big reason is that it's generally hard to conceive of a situation where you would have like basically no carbon, because carbon is so much better at
Yeah,
doing it that if you have carbon and silicon available, the carbon is gonna
carbon's
win.
gonna win. Yeah,
It's gonna win. It's more efficient. It's better. It's easier to do all the stuff. So you'd have to have just like no carbon. And where are you?
how are you?
We haven't observed an environment like that.
What's the situation where you're doing enough fusion that you blow straight past carbon to silicon, but you still have hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen?
It would require a
What are
unique
the
type of sorting event that
like
does not exist in our
right,
current understanding of science.
right? Like what kind of
Pretty fun.
supernova is generating? It doesn't. Yeah,
Yeah, they're not. It turns out supernova extremely broad band in the radiation they release. So it's not like they have like an isolated. Hey, we're just gonna blast only all the carbon away into.
we're
oblivion.
never going to finish this video, are we?
You know,
Probably not.
It's one thing to be able to.
Are the odds of silicon-based life low?
yes,
Probably.
I think so.
Okay, thank you.
Well, in relation to carbon, they're certainly low.
Lower than
the
carbon.
Right. Yeah.
prevalence
Well,
is
yeah, obviously.
far
Lower than
low. God, stupid.
Create amino acids, which can be considered the building blocks of life, but it's a whole nother thing to be able to create life itself. Just because you have a couple of bricks doesn't mean that you have a building.
I mean, but like, it's the main ingredient.
They're also doing it backwards. I think they're promoting what is an older, or presenting, I should say, what is an older version of the abiogenesis hypothesis, which is like the structure first hypothesis. Whereas now it's not a majority view, but I think it's getting there. Is the metabolism first approach, where you have chemical reactions, these oxidation reduction reactions happening just in the environment, and then they become compartmentalized into cell-like structures later. And that I think is it is gaining steam. I don't think it is certainly not a consensus, and I don't even think it's a majority position right now. But compared to 20 years ago, it was basically a 0% position, and now it's a lot more than that percent of biologists think that. And I think that's going to keep accelerating. And the problems that the narrator is describing are different from what metabolism first proposes, right?
Yep.
Just out of date, which is always the case with creations.
I was about to say, like, that's pretty on brand.
In fact, you could even take a living cell, cut it open, and put all of its contents into a sterile environment, and you still wouldn't be able to create life within it, meaning that it's
Somebody should have told King Solomon that, because I'm pretty sure that's what he was expecting when he told them to cut open the baby.
This might be the worst argument in this whole video. Like, this is dumb. Like, if this is something you could do, then we would have solved death.
Yeah. Yes.
Like,
oh my God.
it's not enough to just have the proper building blocks in place. You still need a
Well, one of the building blocks is the like cytoplasm and the cell wall that like protects the inside of the thing or a precursor like a bilipid membrane. I don't know, but sorry.
we're just assuming there's some non-material life force, which is not a sound assumption. There's no data for that, right? You can believe it, and if you want to, power to you, but like, we don't have data to that effect.
Oh yeah, no, I forgot about that because I think I was, oh my gosh, this stupid thing. It
within it, meaning that it's not
we have an audience question.
Also, yeah, sure.
Okay. How do cells actually make new lipid membranes? And yeah, no, we're not finishing. We're gonna try.
I'll say, okay, so I'm gonna do the thing where I bump up the speed.
Do you want my whole class on membrane biochemistry, or do you want the 20-minute version? Do you want the whole 80-minute version?
I'm not sure I can even ask for the 20-minute version. Is there a 5-minute version?
Look, our cells we're good at making long carbon compounds. There's some specific conformations we can't make ourselves. So to make those, we have to take in what are called essential fatty acids. That just means we need to take it in because we can't make it ourselves. And we have parts of our cells called the endoplasmic reticulum, and one little bit of it called the smooth endoplasmic reticulum is where we make new membranes. We make little bubbles of membranes called vesicles, and then we fuse those vesicles with the membrane that surrounds the whole cell, and that's how we grow the membrane that surrounds the cell.
Yay.
So you're saying that they don't just build a little like cell wall outside of the cell out of scratch using like bricks and mortar and then like inject stuff into it?
Look, here's the thing with biology.
That probably does exist. Oh my god.
There are cells that do that. There are cells that do that. There
That's
are cells
amazing.
that basically take they're unicellular little guys, and they take tiny little bits of minerals that are just like in the ocean, right? And they basically stick them into their plasma membrane. The plasma membrane is the cell, the membrane that surrounds the whole cell. And they make I think of it as like a little hat. Like they make a little hat so they have like these little bits of these little mineral plates, and then they stick them and they make like a dome out of their membrane with the plates on the outside, and then they kind of squeeze themselves in there, and they stick they're not feet because it's a single cell, but they stick their little pseudopodia out of the bottom. This is a thing that they're not true amoebas, but they're called the shelled amoebas do that. So don't give us like, oh, I thought it was going to be this thing. Like there's something in biology that does whatever weird thing you can come up with, and I will go down that rabbit hole. And we'll be here all night.
Challenge accepted. Okay.
I know, right?
Like, this is, again, I want to emphasize, like, creationists just, like, don't care about any of this stuff. Like, this is stupid. Like, no, we can explain this.
No, it's fascinating,
like,
right?
cool. Yeah.
Real quick, AR, yes. And then Highside has a question. What do viruses do to break the vestibules without rupturing the cell wall?
They do rupture the cell wall. They love to rupture cell walls. They just poke holes in them.
Thing.
They love to do that. Some of them don't. Some of them do.
I was able to prevent myself from asking the question earlier, but now I cannot. So the task of creating a cell wall is more a task of maintaining a cell wall that exists and then like pinching one off in most cases, because they like you have like mitosis and they pinch off, so you always have like an existing, and it's not a wall, it's a membrane. Walls only exist in like plants.
Well, it depends on the cell type. So like bacteria, archaea, and Archaeplastida have cell walls, and
they have rigid cell walls.
And fungi have
membranes that can be.
And they have the membrane, right? So the cell wall is the outside, and the membrane is.
You have a barrier,
right.
Below it.
But it's not like stiff like plants.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's like where the cellulose
and the
is,
plants,
right?
Plants they don't pinch and separate. Like if you looked at like an animal cell, like you've probably seen like a zygote or something dividing. It starts this and it goes boop, and now it's two, right? That's not what plants do. Plants, they look like bricks, and they just elongate, and then they build a new wall in between, and boop. Like they do a different thing. Instead of pinching, they just do a little renovation. They just do it's called a cell plate. They build this new wall in between as they.
They do that everywhere, because in biology class in high school when I was in 9th grade, like, holy crap, 17 years ago, would have been. I remember looking at slices of the tips of roots,
onion root
in a microscope.
Nope, that's the one that does the cell plate. Yeah.
Okay, because I don't remember, like, I could see, you could tell that some of these had like different clumps of.
They had, so what you can see in those, this is
really cool.
Maya's like, are we really still doing this? And the answer is sorry.
I love this.
Maya, you have true science.
No. Yeah, well, I was again, forgive me for not reading Origins of Species.
I haven't.
My master's degree is in psychology, so yeah, I took a minor in biology in undergrad. So unlike atomic physics, biology is something I can actually keep up with.
Biology, I just want to say this, that like biology is wonderful because there's something that breaks every rule. And I forget where I heard this, so I apologize to whoever it was I'm stealing this from. But what I heard at some point that I love is the phrase, physics has laws, chemistry has rules, and biology has exceptions. So there's whatever the case is, oh, they don't actually do this. Well, yeah, except there's something that does it that way, right? There's, for whatever that thing is, there's going to be some weird thing. And that's why it's great.
So, but yeah, it's shocking that if you cut a living thing in half, it might die. Apparently, that's how we got on this series.
Unless it's a planarian, in which case they're like, it's cool, I'll just grow another eye spot. It's fine.
Yeah.
Enough to just have the proper building blocks in place, you still need a life force in order for an organism to enter into the state.
Okay, so that's just an endorsement of a life.
I haven't been in school in a while. I got my master's degree in 2010. So maybe I'm not up to date on the latest science. Dr. Dan, you're a teacher. Can you tell us what the scientific definition of a life force is needed for souls?
No. Do you want me to go down the rabbit hole about brain biochemistry briefly and how falling in love is just like snorting cocaine?
I don't know that it's necessary. I think you had us at no.
Like,
I mean, it is.
It's the same.
Solidly in my wheelhouse. However,
it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same. And we haven't, let me put it this way. We haven't identified a life force, but we have identified biochemical things for like emotions.
Yeah. Is this a lightsaber?
It is. Yeah.
Obviously.
Mm-hmm.
To the state of living or being alive.
Okay, so do they think that the Force, the living Force from Star Wars, is real?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a Christian belief? Mm-hmm. It's not one I'm familiar with. I remember a lot of Christians who were like, "This is evil. It's almost as bad as Harry Potter," which is an opinion that has aged a little bit better, but
that's broken clock
situation. Yeah.
And thus we have the scientific observation known as biogenesis, which states that any new living organism can only be created from an already pre-existing living organism. So while the God of the Bible claims to be living and the sole progenitor for all life on Earth, the theory of evolution does not offer any basis for how the first life forms came into being.
Let me just say, the law of biogenesis is different from the theory of abiogenesis, right? Because biogenesis applies in an environment where there's already cellular life. And the reason that's the case is that if and when organic things were to form in an environment where there's already cellular life, they don't accumulate because the cellular life that is there will gobble them up.
Yeah.
Right? So you don't get like abiogenesis just happening all the time. There's already cells there. They're going to eat whatever things spontaneously form if they form. That's different from abiogenesis, where there were no living things. Two different things.
Yep.
And since we're searching for answers to events that have happened ages ago and are long since past, let's see whether creation or evolution makes more sense in the light of paleontology. So according to Darwin,
I know the answer.
Ask Chad another question.
Oh, God. All right. Oh, so yeah, I think you've been outvoted. It's pretty much 60-40. But good job, Chad. Good job. Evolution was the correct answer. And it makes more sense.
Creationism we get to craft that ourselves, chat. You are all tapioca weasels. Except for Creation Myths, who has a brand account and is therefore not a member.
It makes me sad.
It does. I mean, you should convert it back. I don't know if it's possible. I remember I've spent a lot of time trying to gift you subs on other channels, and like after I eventually I realized that doesn't work.
Wait, you tried to what?
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Gift Creation Myth subs. Gift Dan subs on like when he's in the chat at like Dappers or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I, drop some subs.
Oh, you're not subbed in Dappers either. Yeah, you didn't get a gift membership in Dappers either?
Well, he's not eligible because he has a brand account, I think.
I have a brand account. What is it?
What is that? I
because
think
I'm like
so.
monetized. Is that?
What does that
No,
mean? No,
uh,
because I have gift memberships all over the place,
it's
but I don't have 1,000 subs.
it's a
Chat.
random distinction that you make when you're making your account somehow that makes you like.
Hmm.
I've never seen. Have you ever gotten gifted one?
I gifted
Ever.
like a
A
membership
membership.
to somebody else's channel. Not to. I don't think so. No. I mean,
Exactly.
people have
And
gifted people on my channel for the first time.
yes,
That happened
I've done
recently.
it. Yes.
Yeah, you did it. Yeah. Right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I showed up and I was like, this chat. Well, I remember
It's like,
one time I
where's all the
showed up and I was
green?
like, there's no join button. And I don't like looking
Should
gray
be.
in chat.
Yeah,
And
it's like, not enough green people here. Must
then I
fix.
told you, I was like, you need to enable memberships, and you were like, I had never like even thought
Oh
about
yeah,
that.
right.
Well,
Yeah,
you need to do
I hadn't done the memberships thing for a while. Yeah,
And then like the next week,
I was just like, let
you
me
did
flip
it.
that switch. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Sorry to my
Right.
members because I haven't done like a pre-recorded video in a while, so you're not getting any benefits lately. Sorry.
That is not why we're in the game.
Sorry, folks.
We're in the
Kate,
game for two reasons: emojis and green names.
Kate says, from an LDS perspective, the soul is made up of our physical bodies and the spirit or life force, which is made from some form of exotic matter.
That
Which,
sounds like
yeah,
midichlorians.
yeah, I've been I say trolling. It's probably a more accurate term. Christians in chats, especially the creationist ones, where I'm just like, why can't evolution be the way that God did it? Because they don't give me answers. How did God do it? What did He make us from? Because they always like to come into chats and be like, "Do you believe everything came from nothing?" Well, what did God make everything out of? Are we made from God? Are we extensions of God? No. It
We're made from
It's just
God
like
Legos.
yeah, I like, well, I'm a goddess, so obviously I'm made of God matter. But what about the rest of you people?
I'm made of reparations.
You are. I haven't seen any in the chat though.
I'm sorry.
Stingy ass. All right, hit the join button.
All right.
Darwin's Tree of Life illustration. In our
Or join
Hit
the
the
like
join
button.
button.
Hit the join button.
fossil record, we should be able to find fossils of similar form and
Freudian
structure,
slip.
gradually branching out and turning into the more complex and varied skeletal structures representative of the vast amount of creatures we see today, with the oldest skeletons looking very simple. And according to the Bible's creation account, in our fossil records, we should be able to find a vast variety of skeletal structures fully developed and appearing all within a short instance of each other, with the
Oh, I know
oldest
where
ones
this is
being
going.
similar in structure and complexity
Oh, no,
as the
it's
present
going
ones.
way too long. Way too long. Oh, hey, look.
Oh, this is
Great.
this is
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Dr. Tapioca Weasel gifted himself 5 memberships. Way to go. Good boy. What were you saying, Dr. Dan?
this is Cambrian explosion is coming here, and I just let
Yep.
it happen, and then we'll talk about it. This is stupid.
By the way, chat, we're pausing a lot, so it's probably not as predictable. But when you watch this video, it is just as predictable as we were making it sound.
Oh, yeah.
This is it hits. If you have a bingo card, you're gonna get bingo on it. Like if you got your creations bingo card, you're nailing it in this
Yeah.
video. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's literally my job, and I don't have one. Sorry, chat. Oh.
So what do we actually find in our fossil record, you ask? Well, our fossil records indicate that about 543 million years ago, there was an appearance of nearly every major living animal body plan in our fossil record. This is referred to as the Cambrian explosion.
Wrong. Nope. Wrong. Like, have creationists. I say this so often and they never listen. Now, obviously this video was published before I was on YouTube, I think. So like, fair enough.
Yeah,
But here's the thing,
like
creationists,
7-year-old.
have some self-respect. Okay? Stop saying things that are something that I could be like, did they all appear all at once? And then you get to like the Smithsonian website is the first thing that pops up and they're like, look at all these fossils. And like, no, this is wrong. And I want to direct everybody, the person to go to on this is Jackson Wheat. Check out his channel. If you're not already subscribed to Jackson Wheat, he's the guy on this. He co-authored this book that's right over my head. The Rocks Were There with R.J. Downer. Fantastic read.
It's also over there. It's the one that's sideways on top.
There you go.
Yeah.
Because it's
Now I feel
it's got to be
bad.
sideways on top.
I'm the only one without the book.
It's a really good
Maya, just say it's in the back, but it's blurred.
Yeah, it's totally right over there.
It's in Canada.
It's in that door.
You totally have that book. It's in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
You haven't met it. And so
It went to
Thank
another
you.
school.
Thank you. So Jackson is all over this, but basically, like, what the problem is, what creationists think happened is that, so the Cambrian explosion refers to this time in the fossil record where a bunch of things appear in the fossil record for the first time. When the Cambrian fossils were first discovered, the time span of within the rock layers only spanned like 5 to 10 million years. So it was like, whoa, all this new stuff really fast, the Cambrian explosion. Since then, it's expanded to 50 to 60 million years, which is a lot less explodey, right? So it was like 510 to 520 million years ago. Now it's 490 to 540. It's big. And the stuff at the front end of it, at 540 million years ago, is not the same stuff that existed 490 million years ago. There's a lot of differences in there, and we actually do see this very predictable pattern of more ancestral states earlier on, more derived states more recently. Not only that, but the period immediately before the Cambrian, the Ediacaran.
Ediacaran.
I
That's
always
how I
say it wrong.
pronounce
It's Ediacaran.
You can it can also be pronounced Ediacaran.
That's how I learned it, and then Jackson says it Ediacaran, so I think he's probably right. But
Dapper is possibly even a bigger nerd about the correct pronunciation of words, right? And he says Ediacaran.
Whatever.
And Maya's here being like, we're never getting anywhere.
We're never doing that. Anyway, the period before the Cambrian, which is 540 to like 600 some odd million years ago, we see some of the Cambrian groups kind of starting to stretch their way into the Ediacaran. And some creationists will even say like animals didn't exist until the Cambrian, and like that's just straight up wrong. And then we know genetically, we're talking about fossils here, genetically, we know that these different lineages existed prior to the Cambrian. The Cambrian is just when they appear in the fossil record for the first time. It's not when they existed for the first time. Those are two different things. Anyway, this statement is wrong. It wasn't a sudden appearance of a bunch of living things. It was the gradual appearance of the ancestors of the living groups.
Interesting.
Subscribe to Jackson Wheat. He's got you covered.
Do it.
Almost 543 million years ago, fully grown and developed animals were suddenly present on Earth's surface.
So when I heard that present on Earth's surface, I like when I hear Earth's surface, I do think of land. That's probably not fair, though.
It's all in the ocean. Yeah, Cambrian stuff is all ocean.
Well, I know it's certainly back then. Right, it certainly was all in the ocean. I was wondering if ocean life can still count as surface life if it's in.
Sure.
Okay, like
I guess
at the bottom.
It's not in space.
Yeah, but
right?
But surface is the boundary of the sphere that we totally live on, and not a flat Earth. Earth is flat. Prove me wrong. Yeah.
Much of them looking just as they do today. The Cambrian explosion spans a period of 20 million years and paints us.
No, it doesn't. It spans a period of 50 million years. Fight me, creationists. This is ridiculous. Like, seriously. Like,
this video is 8 years old. Was it as wrong then?
8 years? Yes. Yeah. Because I've been doing I've been doing my job like for real. I graduated in 2015, so I started fall 20. Yeah, no. It was 50 million years then. Yeah. No. Beautiful. Like again, have some self-respect, okay? Like this isn't bad. Like that statement is the kind of thing that's like that's embarrassing. Don't do that.
It's a picture that looks less like a tree, as Darwin supposed, and more like individual blades of grass sprouting up.
That's totally wrong. That's totally, and AIG has like the exact same thing where they have like separate kinds, and it's got the line for them is the flood boundary, which is really funny, and then they have like all the trees sprouting from the flood boundary. That's wrong. We do have fossils that connect all these. It's wrong. Just
on the surface. So put plainly, the bottom part of Darwin's tree of life does not exist in our fossil record. Meaning that
wrong.
What was that last comment that you just put up?
Cambrian bunnies.
Yeah, I was about to say, what about the Cambrian bunny? That totally exists.
What did I miss?
It exists. It's a real thing. I believe.
Okay.
There's also, I will say this. You could let's take everything that he's saying at face value. Let's assume everything is correct so far about all of this. Doesn't matter one bit, because you know where those fossils do exist? In the genetics. And there's no way to explain the pattern of genetic diversity through separate creation. It's not possible. So, like, this is wrong, but also it doesn't matter.
You heard it here first, folks. Dr. Dan thinks that DNA is made out of rocks.
paleontological standpoint, the Bible still makes more sense than evolution in light of the evidence we've uncovered. So you might be asking yourself right now, if all the information presented in this video is true,
Big if.
then why on earth are all these people out there still clinging to Darwin's theory as a hardcore belief?
I'll let you take that question.
I once again remind everybody that Darwin's theory is from 1859. That was before we knew what DNA was, folks.
Yeah, well before. Almost a century before.
Oh, well, we knew what DNA was before we figured out the structure, but we didn't know what
that's
it did
fair.
and what the
That's fair.
structure
Yeah.
was, right? It was,
That's
yeah.
fair.
So it was to give you the timeline a little bit. We knew what DNA was later on in the 1860s, right? Nucleic acids, because it was like later 1800, not 1860, but later 1800s. We're doing like cell staining stuff. We're like, oh, nucleic
Yeah,
acid.
and you can literally see them in some cells. You can
And then,
when they're splitting, you can see
Exactly.
the chromosomes and count them with a decent microscope. You
Right.
don't need like a newfangled one from 10 years ago.
No, you were doing this in the 1800s. And then
Yeah.
1903, they showed that chromosomes are the things for inheritance. So that was DNA and protein. And then it wasn't until 1942 that everyone got on board that it was the DNA that was responsible for the inheritance. And then it was 52, we did the structure. And then it was throughout the 50s and 60s, we figured out like the genetic code and codons and how all that stuff works.
Yeah.
Darwin didn't know any of that.
No, he just knew.
It's very impressive.
It really is, and it's actually one of those things that I think it's so impressive because it's one of those things that once you think of it, I think it's like kind of obvious on some level, and so it doesn't seem as impressive. Like if it weren't for religious motivation, people wouldn't there wouldn't be as much a movement against it. It just makes so much sense, and in a very I don't get it. It makes so much sense
because it's not a scientific. Here's the thing, though, and this is my hobby horse. This is the big thing that I always try to get across. So thank you for giving me an in to preach my gospel to everybody here. Because it's not fundamentally about the science. This is a part of the Christian nationalist project. That's what this is. The science is immaterial to it. The science is just the foot in the door. That's not the point. So the science doesn't have to make sense because it's not supposed to be a coherent scientific idea. It's just to get people in the door.
Yeah.
It's the lie. Like creationists, professional creationists, people promoting this professionally, they're doing it is a fundamentally dishonest endeavor because it is not about a scientific idea. That's not what this is.
There's a big thing right now in Texas. The governor's trying to push through, teaching the Bible, and I'm pretty sure the Bible is not a forbidden topic in any relevant class, but. What class are we teaching?
I mean, history, comparative religion, sure. Like, talk about
it. Yeah.
It's an important historical thing, but like, not science class.
I learned the Snopes monkey trial in history class, and I remember, didn't the evolution guy lose?
He got fined, yeah, because he broke the law and he got fined, yeah.
Yeah.
And why on earth is this theory taught in our schools as if it were factual when it is indeed theoretical?
Because you're wrong.
Well, let me take a moment to shout out here Dr. Jay Bundy, who I don't know if he's still here, but he was in the chat before. He makes this point all the time that you have to separate out and by the way, Pocket Locker 86, everyone should check out Jay's channel. It's really cool. That he makes this point all the time, and it's a really good point that he has gotten me to try to remember to make, which is that you have to separate out the theory of evolution, which is the explanatory idea. How did things get the way they are? From the fact of evolution, which is like historically things evolved, right? That is what happened historically, right? The species that existed previously changed and or went extinct, and now different species exist. Like evolution unquestionably happened. That is the fact of evolution. The theory is then the question of how did that happen, right? That's an important thing, that when like I teach my class, creationists think what I teach is like I'm trying to convince you that evolution is right. Like they think that my evolution class is basically my channel. That's not what it is. My evolution class is all about the mechanisms of evolution and how they work and how we know, right? It's two different things. The fact of evolution that happened and the theory of evolution that explains it. And that's an important thing to keep in mind. And thank you, Jay, for pounding that into my brain. That's an important point.
Yeah, he's pretty emphatic. Well, about many things, but certainly that. And yeah, Dr. Jay Bundy, friend of the show. He's been in, I want to say 3. He was actually just here about 2 weeks ago. So yeah, mad support over here.
Well, here's something that might blow your mind. If Charles Darwin were alive today, he would be asking the same questions. Huh?
The question, by the way, is why are we still teaching it in like science classes? That's the question. And no, Darwin would not be asking that question.
Why would he ask that question? I mean, I think if he asked any question, it would be like, why has it been 150 years and you're still teaching you haven't, you're still teaching what I wrote, Origin of Species? You didn't extrapolate on that at all. I think if he saw just this video, he'd be greatly disappointed in science, his field as a whole.
He'd be smart enough to know that this is not an honest representation of it, though. Darwin had critics in his time, and he had critics motivated for exactly the same reasons in his time, or very similar ones. I don't know if... I feel like the 1860s were probably a time when there was a lot of Christian nationalism. I can't think of any big conflicts that happened that might have been related to that idea.
Just real quick though, both of you are scientists. If you got to travel 150 years into the future for a day, I know you would be looking into what the main things were that what have we learned since in that time in my field. I would not be a little disappointed if it was nothing.
I mean,
I would be totally disappointed and looking out because I probably live in a totalitarian state that has made all... Trump won, and then he won again.
No, he hasn't, and no, he won't.
Thank you. Now you're putting that out there.
Yeah. Oh my god.
But yeah, for no advancements in science to be made, I mean, it would be that kind of dystopian future.
I would be very sad if they hadn't figured out cancer by then. I'm counting on it by the time I'm old enough to worry about it, which is yesterday. So because we're getting up there. Clock's ticking, folks. Let's figure out all that stuff.
Yeah. And diabetes, because I might...
Just all of it, just solve
This
it.
theory taught in our schools as if it were factual when it is indeed theoretical. Well, here's something that might blow your mind. If Charles Darwin were alive today, he would be asking the same questions. Huh? What are you saying, Johnny? I'm saying just this. If he were alive today, he would tell all the students, teachers, and scientists alike who have held onto his theory and grabbed a hold of it as truth that they are wrong. Yes, wrong. But before Charles Darwin did that, he would first tell you that you were wrong because he was wrong.
What? He would say that?
He's setting this all up because he has a specific argument that he's going to make because he thinks that Darwin gave a counterfactual or a way of falsifying his thing, which he did, and he thinks that it has been falsified, and he's going to present that now.
Okay, for $5, Left-Handed Jedi says if Darwin was alive today, he'd be like, "How am I still alive?" And he'd be 250 years old.
Really confused. He'd be really confused.
Yeah.
Thank you.
In fact, in the very book from whence the evolutionary theory
Whence. You don't need from. If the word whence does the work for it. You don't need from whence. It's just whence. Sorry.
came, Darwin made a very important statement in light of his observations and proposed theories. Darwin said this: if it could be demonstrated that any complex organ existed which could not possibly have formed by numerous successive slight modifications, my theory would absolutely break down.
All right, pause. Time out. Chat, do you know the next sentence he wrote?
Anyone?
Let's see if anybody knows the very next sentence.
I don't know it word for word, but I think is it the next sentence or is it the one after that starts with "however reason tells me"?
Not that. No, it's not "however reason tells me." It starts with "but." But I can find no such case.
Oh, okay.
Oh, they conveniently leave
Literally,
that out all the time.
Oh,
weird how they just leave that out.
I'm thinking of the one where he talks about the eye.
That's, yeah,
That's the however reason tells me.
yeah.
Such an organ as Darwin described here would be known as.
By the way, it's weird.
Here it comes.
It's weird that I never read the book and I know what other people are going to choose as like specific quotations
Yep.
and the refutation. Like that's
It warms my heart that that's the case.
as an irreducibly complex system.
There it is.
There it is.
Complexity, baby. Michael Behe. Here we
Oh
go.
yeah. Blessed be he.
This is a single system which is composed of several interacting parts that all contribute to the basic function of the system. And if you were to remove any one of these parts, the system would effectively cease to function. So to
There you go. That's what it is. Here, let him finish, do the mousetrap thing, and then we'll talk.
help illustrate this, we'll use a bicycle and a mousetrap, okay?
Yeah.
A bicycle is a complex system, but it is not an irreducibly complex system. Meaning that I could remove major components of the bicycle and it would still function as a vehicle of expedited transportation. For instance, if I remove the seats, I can still stand up and ride. If I remove the front wheel, I can still wheelie on the rear wheel.
Were you saying that? This is the irreducible complexity?
This is irreducible complexity, but I love how he starts by refuting it.
Or he starts with a counterexample, which
Yeah.
he doesn't. So the refutation, I think, is that the example he gives as an irreducible one is not actually irreducible.
No, it's not.
But I will say I do appreciate this example. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't help him, but it doesn't help him because it's a good example, and I appreciate a good example.
This is a good example. There's actually been people who've done like computer simulations of wheeled vehicle evolution, and they go through like this weird triangle-shaped unicycle stage. Then they get like a weird bike, but the wheels are the wrong proportions; they don't work, and like it's a good example of how complex systems evolve.
And specifically, the angle of that front wheel, it needs to be angled a certain way because otherwise it's not self-correcting. Like, because if you just roll a bicycle down a somewhat bumpy hill, it's self-correcting. And if you extend that top bar and make that front support go backward, it's not.
If I remove the whole front portion of the bike, meaning the forks, the wheel, the handlebar, and all, I've effectively turned it into a unicycle, yet it still functions as a vehicle of expedited transportation. Thus, it is not an irreducibly complex system. A mousetrap, on the other hand, is an irreducibly complex system. It's made up of 5
Let's do it. Let's do it. Then we'll talk about Ken Miller trolling Michael
components,
Behe
all of
during
which
the
are
trial.
required in order for it to perform its function. Component number 1 is the catch. This is where you place your bait, and this is also what triggers the trap to activate. Component number 2 is a thin U-shaped rod called the hammer. Component number 3 is a torsion spring. It provides the speed force with which to bring down the hammer. Component number 4 is the holding bar, which keeps the hammer cocked.
I'm sorry. Why did he not start with the base? This is baffling.
I was thinking that.
I think because if you start with the base, it makes the evolutionary pathway more obvious.
Yeah.
If you start with the base, it's obvious that it can do different things because the word we're going to get to here, folks, and somebody already said it in chat, so thank you, is exaptation. That's the word we're going to get to here, and we're going to see it in a second.
Back in place. And component number 5 is the platform on which the entire system is mounted. If you remove any one of these components, the system will not function. Or put another way, the complexity of the mousetrap does not allow for a reduction in parts while maintaining its function. Thus, it is an irreducibly complex system. All the components must be present simultaneously in order to function.
This
So now
narrator can't even take this stuff seriously. He's laughing as he's saying. He's like, I know this. Yes, I know this.
No,
BS.
right?
I can't believe
Let's
they're
listen
making
to
me say
that. Let's
this.
listen to that again.
Yeah.
mousetrap does not allow for a reduction in parts while maintaining its function. Thus, it is an irreducibly complex system. All the components must be present simultaneously in order to function.
Yeah.
So now that
See, this guy is like, this bullshit. I can't believe they're making me say this, but I'm going to say it. Right? He's,
But I mean, that's great. You found a non-biological component to, make that. It's cherry picking.
yeah, as somebody in the chat said, do bicycles and mousetraps reproduce? No. Do they experience natural selection? No. Do they experience mutations? No. So then what are we even doing here?
Right.
But the best thing about this mousetrap example is from the 2005 Kitzmiller v. Dover intelligent design trial, where two of the expert witnesses on the creationist side was Michael Behe And he
That'd
loves
be
this
he.
mousetrap example because Irreducible Complexity is his baby. And it's from his 1996 book, Darwin's Black Box. And then Ken Miller, biologist from Brown University. If you've taken like high school biology, you probably used the textbook that he co-wrote.
Is it the same Miller?
It's same Miller.
It's Miller Urey? Yeah.
No, different. No, that's Stanley Miller.
Oh.
That's much older. This is Ken Miller. This is
Okay.
yeah. And
I
so
know the book though. I never got it, but yeah, it's the biggest one.
So he did this thing where basically the one of the refutations to Irreducible Complexity is that he assumes that the function has to be the same the whole time, right? The mousetrap has to function to catch mice at every stage in its evolutionary history. But that's not how biology works. Things can change function. Feathers were originally for heat insulation and only later became adapted for flight, for example, right? That's called exaptation.
They still do heat insulation.
They do, right? They do both, but there's specific feathers that are for flight. There's for another example that I like is you've got chemical receptors in your cells that are like for hormones or some other chemical signal. Those same types of receptors are photoreceptors in your eyes. It's a different variant of the same protein. It's a mutation that made it sensitive to light rather than chemical signal, right? That's exaptation. It's did one thing, now does a different thing. And so what Ken Miller did during the trial to illustrate how this concept of irreducible complexity is wrong is he wore a tie clip made of a mousetrap that was missing a couple of the parts to show that it could still have a function without some of the parts. It would just be a different function. Ta-da! You don't need to evolve in a straight line from nothing to current function. You can do other things along the way. And we can experimentally demonstrate that. We can show phylogenetically that that's what's happened. And for what it's worth, Michael Behe is not a young Earth creationist. He's an old Earth guy. So he accepts things. And I've directly asked him this, and he has confirmed to me that he accepts the concept of universal common descent.
Oh.
So he agrees that things like feathers did one thing and now do a different thing. Like, he's okay with that. Like, okay, then your concept breaks.
Did he accept that?
No. Surprisingly, he did not. In our hour-long conversation on the topic, come around to the idea that actually your life's work is wrong. We didn't quite get there.
So
baby steps.
I have a knockout argument against your entire worldview. Have you considered the bacterial flagellum?
You mean the outboard motor that allows E. coli to move? I'm sure we're going to hear about it momentarily.
We understand what irreducible complexity is.
Whoa. Everybody's favorite friend, Vandalia, and Vandalia, condolences, and our hearts go out to you and your family. For $4.99 says Mousetrap sure was complex causes. Mousetrap sure was complex causes. I don't think I ever played that game the proper way. Oh, the game Mousetrap.
Agree. I never got that game to work.
I never played it. I played it maybe once.
Never set up that.
I was always like, I want to play this game, and my mom and dad were like, that has too many weird pieces that you're gonna lose, and then the entire game is like hard to play because you lost one piece. So
I could never get that game to work.
So Mousetrap disproves evolution. Checkmate, atheist.
Okay, so he looks extremely satisfied right now.
It's gonna get worse.
Given our advances in microbiology and the study of single-celled organisms, we are now privy to much more information than Darwin had back in the mid-1800s when he published his theory. And what have we uncovered since then? We've uncovered the evidence of biomolecular machines. Inside large organisms are a series of organs that perform specific functions. All of the...
Wait, inside large organisms, there are organs that perform... Okay, I can follow that.
So it's like
this guy looks like a starfish, by the way.
It does kind of look like a starfish, yeah.
Well, exactly. I mean, if you could change the head, it does, for sure.
The tissues making up these organs, as well as the organism itself.
That looks like a steak. Or it looks like a weird mutated cell with teeth and a mouth.
It's a cell. It's the textbook like cell with the cutout is what he's going for.
Yeah, but
that's mitochondria.
Is that the powerhouse of the cell?
Don't say that phrase. I tell my students, if you say that phrase, you get an automatic F. That's in my syllabus. Like, you don't
expelled.
Those
hilarious. You know what I would do is I would say it on the final after I totally earned an A, and I would call your bluff.
That's fair. That's fair. Fair. It is a bluff, but we talk about it, and then I say, okay, everyone, tell me what the mitochondria is, and everyone goes powerhouse of cell, and I say, great. Never say that phrase again. Automatic F if I hear that phrase ever again.
Remind me at the end of the show.
Is comprised of microscopic cells. Interestingly enough, these small cells contain organs and components as well. So there's organic complexity even down to the cellular level. So let's look at just one component of a single-celled organism. And since we talked about transportation earlier, let's look at the flagellum. The flagellum is a hair-like, or rather a tail-like appendage.
Here we go. Here it is.
That's used to propel the cell through a given body of space.
True. There you go. See? It's an outboard motor, folks. It's just like an outboard motor.
It is essentially an outboard motor.
Why is this
motor? Much like
what? I mean,
like what you'd find on a motorboat. First, you have the propeller, which
I do appreciate the pirate drawing.
So
on the flagellum is called.
The flagellum has a little pirate hat. Is that where we're going with?
Yeah, I think the cell had a pirate. The guy operating the flagellum had a pirate hat.
Ah,
you know, cool.
The filament. Next, you have the U-joint, which is called the hook. You have the drive shaft or rod, and you have a stator and a rotor.
Are they called that in the language of
the terms that I know? Filament, hook, stator, rotor. Yeah, that's what they're called. Okay. Yeah, I mean,
roughly 4.
I will say this for biologists: we're really bad at naming things in a way that makes it understandable to people, and not in a way that is misleading. Exhibits A and B, mitochondrial Eve and Y chromosome atom. Don't get me started on those naming conventions.
That is a trope that does not appear in this video.
It's surprising.
It's one of the few, yeah.
40 different protein parts needed to comprise the 5 main components making up the flagellum. And the only way for the flagellum to work is for all 5 components to be in place simultaneously.
Can I just say, I just see in chat, is this a Cajun accent? Is that what this accent is? I don't know.
I can't do accents.
I don't know.
Outboard motor cannot gradually just develop in a single cell organism out of nowhere. The evidence of these irreducibly complex
Time out.
All right.
It was that out of nowhere that did it, right? Because no one says that happened. That's the thing. Nobody says that happened. There's lots of examples of, because fundamentally the way that the bit that spins is a channel for hydrogen ions. It's a proton channel. Just a single proton goes through, and as protons go through, it spins. There's other proteins that do that. Like there's other things that are proton channels that spin. They do other functions.
They probably use it more often, or in some cases, I'm speculating, they probably use it because there are protons around, and when a proton goes through it, it causes spinning, which they can then use to like further some other reaction.
What you do when you are doing cellular metabolism in your mitochondria, aka the powerhouse of the cell, what you are doing is generating a proton gradient. So you're pushing all the protons to one side, like you're putting water behind a dam, and then you're letting them diffuse through the spinny bit, like a turbine in a dam, and the spinny thing is what makes the ATP, the chemical energy for the cell. When you have a flagellum, it works exactly the same way, except instead of using that energy to make ATP, you're using it to turn the part that sticks outside of the cell to move. It's the same mechanism. But more importantly than that, what was just said is completely wrong. You don't need all the parts to make it work. There are examples of bacterial flagella that are missing some of the parts in the canonical flagella that Behe and other creationists like to cite. The one that they talk about is in E. coli. But there's simpler versions of the same thing that have the same function and work the same way in other types of bacteria. They still work. It's still it's just less. It has fewer bits, but it still works. It's not irreducible. It's just like this whole idea of, the flagellum is irreducible. No, it's not. There are other flagella that work the same way, that do the same thing, that have fewer parts. Just factually wrong.
We agree.
I can't.
Biomolecular machines.
I'm just.
When Darwin pondered on it.
I get mad.
No.
When he was discussing what type of finding would result in debunking his theory. Remember what he said? He said, if it could be demonstrated that any complex organ existed, which could not possibly have formed by numerous, successive, slight modifications, my theory would absolutely break down. So there you have it. The man Darwin himself would consider his own theory discredited in light of recent discoveries.
You were just
even if he tried to somehow
this,
salvage Darwin's theory of evolution.
Why is it not pausing? I was pressing the pause button.
No, yeah, you were just talking about that. And he
we
Cherry
had,
picking.
and the other thing is this numerous successive slight modifications phrase means like bit by bit, same function in kind of a stepwise fashion. That's not how evolution works, right? There's other evolutionary processes that don't work that way. Acceptation is one of them. Punctuated equilibrium, although Darwin proposed that in a later edition, where instead of being kind of a gradualistic thing, it's like stasis for a long time and then a significant jump. Like this is just responding to a version of evolutionary theory that was outdated 50 years ago.
Well, we can't have updated evolutionary theory. That's too hard to poke holes in, apparently.
Can't have
He's
that.
That's
thinking.
not how science works.
Well,
You still
Darwin is
have
the
the
atheist
question of
god, so he
information.
said something once.
That's
And
it.
since he's a god, it can never change because that's how religions work. And evolution is clearly a religion.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
They say that like it's a bad thing, which doesn't help their point.
Where did the engineering information required to construct an outboard motor on a cellular level come from? Where did it come from? And if all life on this planet could somehow be traced back to a single...
Where did it come from, and where did it go?
Oh, I know this one, Cotton Eye Joe.
Yeah.
Oh, Cotton Eye Joe's god?
cell.
Confirmed.
I guess so.
We solved it.
My computer has stopped listening to basic commands.
You would still have the question of what or who gave that cell life? Because as science shows, all life on this planet can only be created from a living organism. So in conclusion, we examine scientific experiments, paleontology with the study of fossils, and finally microbiology. And in each instance, the biblical account of creation still made more sense than Darwin's theory of evolution.
There was no discussion of anything genetics in here at all.
Well,
just none.
I don't think, yeah.
We want to talk about like homology genetically and sequence similarity and nested hierarchies of sequences and like how that shows us and how you can trace, oh, this specific change occurred here and it shows how all these things share a common ancestor and like just none of that, which, I mean, I'm biased because like genetics is my thing, but that doesn't mean I'm wrong, that genetics provides the best evidence for evolution. And if creationists are going to ignore that, I don't really have to listen to them because they're ignoring the most important thing.
yeah.
Is
That's
it
very
facts?
fair.
They're not even going to try.
I mean, it's. I still can't get over the bath sheet, though. Not the bath sheet, the bed sheet.
It may be, so I'm thinking about this, it may be going for like a purity thing.
I mean, I guess, but like...
Oh, yeah, he's bringing the message from on high. It's like Moses with the tablets. This is
What I
this
want to
is
do in that
information
case,
from God.
I want to take a black light to that thing. See if he's still that pure then. Yeah.
Which only seems to be refuted more and more over time as each of these fields of study progresses. So thanks for watching.
Oh,
we made it.
We made it. Hey, you didn't think we could do it in 2 hours? You thought that 2 hours was way too much time.
There you go. We did it. Look at that.
We made it.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is what's called the bullshit asymmetry principle.
Let's look at that. What's the bullshit asymmetry principle?
Oh, it's that it takes way longer to refute the bullshit than it does to state the bullshit. So you can never reach parity there because like you could just spout a bunch of stuff in a minute and the ratio of bullshit to refutation is like 1 to 10, so it just takes way longer.
It's very similar to the second law of thermodynamics.
Which means
it legitimately is in certain details, actually.
That's really funny.
Yeah, when it because it basically refers to like there's a lot it's a lot easier to break an egg than it is to put one together.
Mm-hmm. Just like it's a lot easier to break a biological system than it is to put it together, and therefore you need an intelligent designer to make that biological system.
Exactly.
Creationism confirmed. There we go. We did it.
Right.
It's not how it works, folks.
I had a short that I wanted to share.
Oh, okay. Okay, let's see. You're ready.
Why is this not? There we go.
69 inches.
Nice.
How do you get the...
Just use Pythagorean theorem.
Oh, That's right, I forgot about that.
I guess math is finally paying off in the real world, huh?
What's the Pythagorean theorem?
You don't remember?
Remember, I never learned that.
Yeah, it's the a squared plus b squared equals c squared.
Yeah, everybody learned
Just
that.
like the quadratic formula song, x equals negative b plus or minus
Square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You guys are cute. What the f was that?
You've never heard that before?
I don't listen to Drake anymore, man. You know that. Plus, what does any of that even mean?
Nobody remembers how to use it.
Yeah, we all just remember the song. You never learned that.
Never.
I before E except after never E saw. 9 times 5. 45, 9 times 6, 54, 9 times 7, 63. You never learn how to multiply by 9 using your fingers. Never, no.
Where did you go to school?
Alex, what's the mitochondria? The mitochondria? That's the powerhouse of the cell. Everybody knows that.
Ayo, dude.
I saw that earlier today. And when he got to the long pause, I paused it and I said, "You're gonna bring up mitochondria." Before he said mitochondria, not before he said powerhouse of the cell. Before he's,
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh my god, that was awesome. Okay, I'm sorry.
We're not friends anymore. How dare you?
It's the powerhouse of the cell.
Oh my god. We've done some really funny things to our guest. I've never seen one turn red and cartoon smoke just pour out of their ears like that. Thanks for coming.
Oh,
That was great. That was fantastic.
I had a wonderful time.
Dr. Dan, who are you? Where are you? What do you have coming up this week?
Hi, I'm Dan. I'm an evolutionary biologist. My channel is Creation Myths, and what I do is take scientific creationist claims and tell you why they are wrong. And also what I do, apparently, is I get in months-long fights with creationist organizations, which is what I've been doing since, like, March.
Oh my god, you're the guy who made somebody change their stance on something, right?
That was me, yes.
Oh my god, what happened?
I've been fighting with Discovery Institute, which is the intelligent design think tank, which is they're a Christian nationalist organization that does this intelligent design thing, which they claim is not just creationism, but it literally is, because if you've ever heard the phrase "see design proponents," it's because they messed up the Control F when they were changing the book from a creationist book to an intelligent design book. It's a whole thing.
It is cartoonishly. It is a cartoonishly obvious example. If you wrote that in a movie, people would be like, "That's too on the nose."
It's Scooby-Doo, like, it's just creationism. Like, it's just a Scooby-Doo villain. It's the dumbest thing. And, like, we have the documentation where literally they messed up. It says, and creationists believe blah, 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 blah. And then in the intelligent design version of the same book, it says, see design proponents believe. Like, it's so bad. And
they spell creationists with 2 C's.
Yeah, it's so bad. And so anyway, I've been having a fight with Discovery Institute about junk DNA, which led to me having a debate on the Non Sequitur show with one of their people, Dr. Casey Luskin, who's a geologist. I don't know why they had the geology guy do the debate about genetics and not one of their biology people, but whatever.
They know what's up.
And they changed their position, and I've been calling them on it, and they don't like that, and we've been fighting, and I've been living rent free in their heads for like months. And I actually went back and counted the other day. So this was first week of May, we had our debate. Since then, they have written 9 articles on their blog about me, our debate, mentioning me. Like,
did they actually change their position, and they have like, and they're trying to pretend?
No, they're gaslighting everybody to try to say that their new position has been their position forever.
Okay, but they have changed their position.
Yeah.
It wasn't a thing that they acknowledged that you were right and then just went back to
the
same position.
They've been like, this has been our position forever, and I've got receipts that like it is not have been your position forever. This is new as of a couple of months ago, and there's little shameless self-promotion. There's a whole playlist of this on my channel, and here's the kicker. My video that I'm releasing on Wednesday is another installment in this saga because they messed up. Because they have made an argument to try to refute my position on this junk DNA thing that's going on. It's a whole thing, and it's not worth getting into. in making an argument to try to show that I'm wrong, they have messed up. And I'm going to show you how they messed up. And I'm really excited about it, and they are not going to like it. So that's coming up on Wednesday on my channel. I'll release this video. I'm really pumped about it because this has been months in the making.
Is it already scheduled? Can we drop a link?
I don't have it even. I haven't uploaded it yet. It's not going to be live. It's going to be pre-recorded. So I have not uploaded it because I haven't recorded it yet. Because again, I'm a professional. So I'm clearly on top of things.
Maya has a policy of always getting the video out a prompt 3 months. 3 hours in advance.
3 hours, yeah.
So, been there, man. Been there.
Yeah.
Hey, if I do it the day before, I feel like I'm doing okay.
I'm able to talk all the shit because I don't even make content on my channel. I'm very intelligent.
So anyway, so this is talking about things I have coming up. I have that coming this week, and then actually I'm really excited about this, and I think I'm going to do it for the next 3 weeks after. Is what I'm going to do is I'm going to take stuff that I do in one of my real classes, an evolutionary biology class, and I'm going to shorten it and kind of tweak it a little bit. But I'm going to talk about 3 topics that seem completely unrelated, and we're just going to talk about kind of the evolutionary dynamics at play, and we're going to see how they are actually the same thing. It's the same underlying dynamics for all 3 topics. And basically I'm going to do 3 videos live 3 weeks in a row. And it's going to basically be like a class. And I'm going to try to interact with the chat as though it is a class, and I'm doing it in a room of people. And the 3 things, and this is the first time I'm talking about this. So like,
I was going to ask, yeah.
I haven't even talked about, but this is coming up. I'm really excited to do it. So we're going to talk about the evolution of altruistic behavior. We're going to talk about the evolution of virulence in pathogens, basically things making you sick. And we're going to talk about the evolutionary dynamics of cancer. And those 3 things are actually all the same thing.
What?
It's awesome, and I can't wait to do it. So we're going to do those 3 topics 3 weeks in a row, live shows, and it's actually the same evolutionary dynamics underlying all 3 things.
Okay.
It's so cool.
When does that start?
This is going to be not this coming Wednesday, but it's going to be the Wednesday after that, going for 3 weeks at 9 p.m., 3 weeks in a row. I'm going to do it.
9 p.m. Eastern?
Oh, wait, is the first one, is it with Science Side Up?
No, so we have to
reschedule. So that's
we have to schedule that. That's just a placeholder thing. We haven't.
Gotcha.
We've been trying to schedule that. We're going to do that, and it's going to be awesome. But
no, yeah, everybody here loves Maddie.
She's fantastic. Yeah,
we have a lot of Dapper Dino.
We should get Maddie on. We haven't had Maddie on.
You should get Maddie on.
Is she gonna be up this late?
That's a good question. It is kind of late,
but she's Central Time, so it's a little bit.
It's only that's only 1 hour. You know.
Yeah.
What time?
I know it's like 10:30 her time. I don't know. I guess where she could say is no. But
ask her. Maddie's great. You should ask Maddie. Maddie's awesome.
Yeah,
Maddie's awesome, and everyone should subscribe to Science Side Up.
Baby's a little older now, so she's sleeping through the night.
Yeah, that's the key, right? That's like night and day when that happens.
It's Dr. Maddie now, right?
It is Dr. Maddie. Yes,
Dr.
indeed.
Maddie.
Dr. Maddie. That's right. So yeah, I'm so pumped to do the series. I think it'll be really cool because it's, instead of talking about bad science and showing how it's wrong, I get to like kind of behind the curtain a little bit of what I do for real and like see how much we actually do understand this stuff and how like well it explains some things that seem completely unrelated, but if you dig into the math behind them, they're actually all the same thing, and it's so cool.
Yeah. So Dan, I am an atomic physicist, and I'm on record in the past and again now as stating that I believe that the theory of evolution is better supported and better upheld than the theory of atomic physics, than atomic
theory. You think
theory.
Atomic? Really? Interesting.
Yeah,
I've heard relativity, but atomic, interesting.
I would say atomic because I think that fundamentally, the fundamental concepts behind evolutionary theory are more well established than the fundamental concepts of atomic theory. The fundamental concepts of atomic theory rely on quantum theory, which will eventually evolve, hopefully, into a unified theory with gravity and stuff. And all of the laws of atomic theory will reduce down in the limit, and that'll all be the case. But the fundamentals of evolutionary theory will not change. they do not, the fundamentals
Yeah.
of that you have things like descent with modification, and you have allele frequency over time. That's the definition of evolution,
Yeah.
right?
Change allele frequencies over generations. You got it. Yep.
That is exactly. It's that, and that is already established on 18 trillion different levels, whereas the fundamentals of modern atomic theory are prone to a paradigm shift in the underlying theory of quantum physics.
Okay,
and that is why.
That is really interesting, and I
Yeah.
not,
So
that's really cool. Also,
yeah,
I just want to say, oh, go ahead.
I will say the one thing that atomic theory does have is we do have the most precise measurements. We have measurements to the 18th decimal place. That's not even a concept that makes sense in evolutionary theory.
Yeah, right. I just want to say that I'm chat. You all are making me so happy right now because people are talking about saying where is it that with the altruism is cancer, transmissible cancers. Yeah, we're going to talk about transmissible cancers and why that's a thing. Like and like somebody else said, oh boy, we get to look at the maths. Only a little bit, but it's enough that we're going to see why things behave the way they do. I'm so pumped to like
that. Yeah, no,
I
it
think people
sounds
are
like
gonna like this.
an amazing
It's gonna be
show.
cool. I'm really excited for it. It's one of my favorite things to teach, and it's the kind of thing that we talked earlier about how it's silly to think about like a narrative structure for a science class, but it's the kind of thing that I cover over the course of 3 days of class as part of broader topics. And then you get to the end of it when you talk about the dynamics of cancer, and it brings in all these things. And it really does illustrate just how much of this we understand and how much we can predict. It's really exciting. And also it means I don't have to like record videos for those 3 weeks, which is good.
All right, so the chat is like begging us to stop so they can go to bed because we're just too freaking interesting, apparently. I think I did just really quick want to. Oh God, somebody had a question. Where'd it go?
Do you remember who it was?
Oh yeah, okay. So Sydney Raptor says, "Maya Creationist, when's the next team dodgeball game scheduled? Is that a thing?"
Oh, just team. So Team Dodgeball comes from a creationist YouTube kind of conglomerate, the Standing for Truth Intellectual Consortium, and AKA the Brain Trust.
Talk about
And
standing for truth, my pristine chat.
they have dubbed
The Brain
us,
Trust,
and by the
It
Brain
also
Trust, and
includes
they have
multiple
dubbed
maps.
us, and by us I mean Dapper,
The Science Friends.
the Science Friends, Jackson, RJ, like that crew. They've dubbed us Team Dodgeball because we don't answer any questions, we just dodge.
You don't answer any questions.
I've
heard of this concept called projection, but I think
every
Wow.
accusation is a confession. Okay. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
rich.
so like last week on my channel, I had it was Dapper and Jordan from Reason to Doubt and Matt, Dr. Matty, and we did a thing, and I think that was a team dodgeball game. I think is what that was. That was a little we try to get together and do things every so often because
Oh my God.
Yeah, they don't like how science works. They don't like how it qualifies answers and is specific about what it means.
Yeah. And has caveats and complexity and shades of gray, right? There's
yeah.
All right, Dr. Dan, thank you so much for coming on. This was awesome. I hope you had a great time.
I did. This was super fun. This was great. Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed Bad Science Sunday for a while, and I'm just really thrilled to be able to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Hopefully we can have you on again sometime.
I would love to.
Awesome. All right. So I was in between two videos. And so I'm gonna I don't know. I would say two videos, two songs that I really, really liked. So I think rare that I play them both. But I am hoping everybody has a great holiday week wherever you are, and for Americans. And for the rest of you,
have a bad holiday week. Sorry, I took the implication of what you said in the worst way possible.
You did. I mean, just get ready. take pity on us. We're trapped with a lot of dumbasses, and we are trying to drag them kicking and screaming into the future.
Trying.
And we're trying.
And we're winning. We
Yeah,
are winning.
largely, yeah.
Let me tell you, in the physics community, we do not worry about it. We're not concerned about the flat earthers. We're not we're just gonna go trucking along and keep on inventing things and stuff, and
Yeah, they're
they'll
not gonna give
use
you
their
money.
semiconductor devices to dispute the entire theory underlying how we understand and make those semiconductor devices. Sorry.
It's the hand. We're fighting against the hand coming up over the cliff. That's what we're dealing with. It's the boomer hand.
Yeah, but if anybody wants to adopt me, yes.
Are you allowed to adopt somebody
Emotional.
older than you?
Yes. Any of my emotional support Canadians out there.
That's fantastic.
You broke me. Why are you like this? Oh,
I think I actually broke him.
How
Hard
long
up.
has the show gone on? And it was emotional support Canadians that did it.
yeah.
Amazing.
But Al Trucker went to bed a while ago, so he's not here for me.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now take a moment to sing God Bless America. We are led tonight by retired Navy Petty Officer First Class Generald Wilson.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the lights from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans,